Should I remodel my home before selling? Guys, in this video, we're gonna go over kind of depends on what the market looks like and in why in some markets, yes, it makes sense to remodel your home, and why in other markets, it makes zero sense at all. You will understand which market you should do those in by the end of this video. Guys, as we go through this, you're gonna see that there are times when you don't need to waste your time. You don't need to waste your money on doing any kind of rehabs or remodels to your home. But in certain markets, you will. And I'm gonna share with you at the end of this video, I'm gonna share with you the 2 remodels to consider that when you're in that market, what are the 2 that give you your best value and increase the price of your home. All right, guys, going back to when I said depends on the market, right? What we start doing, if whether we're gonna remodel the home or not remodel the home. For example, right now, in our 2021, you're in a market that's a bull market. You're in a market that we're still lacking this inventory, and we still have a bunch of people moving from all around the world to the US. And so there's a couple stats you gotta look at. Right now, with it being a bull market, no inventory, not many homes for sale, there's not many options available. And then you got this in-migration. You got people that are moving to, for example, the state of Utah. In-migration is through the roof, but inventory is super low. Now, because there's this big gap, you're able to get a ton of money right now for your home. In fact, values that are now surpassing those 05, 06, 07 numbers right before the big crash in the US, right? We're starting to see those numbers be bigger than that right now. So we gotta look at it and say, okay, does it make sense? And in a market like this, when I say depends, I would say, you know what? Consider not doing as much money as you think in these rehabs because there's this lack of inventory and there's not enough options for people to buy right now. You don't have to do much. It is very much a seller's market right now, not a buyer's market, meaning you can put your home on market, not look like the brand spanking new home, and still get more than asking price because of the market we sit in. So why would you spend a ton of money on these remodels if the market's not requiring you to do so? Now, on the other hand, what about when the market starts to slow down, right? We saw this after the 08, 09 crash. We saw for the next 4 or 5 years that you actually had to over-improve homes, that if you wanted them to sell. Why? Because the in-migration started to go down, people weren't moving, and then you saw inventory go up, meaning we're in complete opposite and the gap was different now. You didn't have people out there saying, I want a home, I want a home. And for every buyer, they had hundreds of options to pick from for their home. That is now in a buyer's market. So at that point, yes, you're gonna have to do some necessary remodels, some rehabs, and some updates so that you stand out in the pack. When you're out there and you're one of 500 options, you've got to stand apart. You've got to make sure that you're doing something that catches the seller's eyes, and you're now in the seller's market. So how do you do that? You've got to understand, what is it that sellers are looking for? What are the things that drive them completely nuts? Like, I've got to have my hands on this home. There's 2 big remodels that you've got to consider. All right, before we talk about those 2 key remodels on how to get and add more value for your home, I want you to chime down below. What are the 2 remodels that you think you need to do for your home? Put them down below and I'll comment in and chime in to see if it's really worth your time, because at the end of the day, I fix and flip about 25, 30 homes a year, and I'll have some good input, some good insight to let you know if you should do it. All right, guys, let's talk about those top 2 remodels. What are they? And how do they help you? Again, remember, we're talking about markets when you need to do this. Right now, we sit in a market. For example, we just did a home just recently because we're in this bull market, right? The bull market we're in, we purchased a home for $250,000. It needed about $35,000 repairs to make it worth, at the end of the day, $350,000. So we could have just simply assigned it maybe to a cash investor that they can do the fix and flip for maybe $10,000 or $15,000 and just move on to the next deal. Or we could fix and flip it, spend some time and energy fixing and flipping it, rehabbing the home, and then put it on the market. Or what we decided to do was just simply put it on the market as is and see what happens. We put it on the market for $299, so that there's a $50,000 difference from what it could be worth once it's all fixed up. And at the end of the day, guys, because again, this lack of inventory and this in-migration through the roof, we were able to get a retail buyer to still give us $350,000, a full asking price as if it were already fixed up, which it wasn't, because of this crazy good market that we are in. So it doesn't make sense to do any remodel. So now let's go back to these rehabs. When you're in a market that you actually have to be different from all the other options out there, there's too many homes to pick from and there's not a lot of people moving into the state, now you got to consider where to put your dollars. The top two, first and foremost, is going to be your kitchen. People want a beautiful kitchen when they move into a home. They don't want to have to deal with it. They don't want to have to repair it, remodel it, or gut it and start all over. That to them is hard, and they can't even think how to do that, how to physically make that possible. Going without a kitchen, no place to cook food, no place to prep lunches, no place to gather together with family and friends. That to them sounds like chaos, and it is. And so how can you take that away? How do you make a home enticing for someone to say, hey, I can do with the awful flooring, I can do away with like this awful color that's on the wall. They can get past that. They can think that's easy fix. But people value when you put a kitchen in for them and they're willing to pay top dollar for it. The second remodel, guys, that you're gonna have to consider when you have a slower market is bathrooms. Again, people can't think about what would the world be like without bathrooms. They're like, I can't do this. This won't work. I need to have my bathrooms. So if you can, while you own it, rehab those bathrooms. On average, you're gonna spend anywhere from about $5,000 to $10,000. This is something that will come back in return and add instant value to your home. The buyers in the market, when it's slower, slower or faster, are valuing these two remodels. It's just, when do you actually sink the time and energy and the investment into it? So know those two remodels do add value, and know that there are times in the market that you don't need to do it, and right now happens to be that time. But when it slows down, consider those two rehabs. Hey guys, to learn more about this hot market that we're sitting in and how to really capitalize on these fix and flips and these renovations that we're doing to our home, click on this video that goes to why the real estate market is so hot. Enjoy, and we'll see you on our next video.